Now, we have a very special individual from our own Silicon Valley here who has really been an example and inspiration for many of us. We're delighted to have with us Sanjay Mehrotra, the president and CEO of Sandesk, as a grand keynote speaker. 27 years ago, Elise, Sanjay, and Jack co-founded Sandesk. Sanjay is one of the rare leaders who has successfully transitioned from being a co-founder to scaling the business to approximately $6 billion in revenue as CEO. In October last year, as you may know, Sandesk agreed to be acquired by Western Digital for approximately $19 billion in a transaction that's in the final stages of regulatory approval. Sanjay earned his bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering and computer science from University of California, Berkeley. In addition to Sandesk, Sanjay serves on the board of directors of Cavium and the Global Semiconductor Alliance, the Engineering Advisory Board at UC Berkeley, and the Stanford Graduate School of Business Advisory Council. Sanjay is named mentored on more than 70 patents, as an inventor on more than 70 patents, and has published numerous articles in the area of non-volatile memory design and flash memory systems. His recognitions include receiving the 2013 Outstanding Alumni Award in Electrical Engineering from the University of California at Berkeley, and being a joint recipient of the 2006 IEEE Reynold B. Johnson Information Storage Device Technology Award. Joining Sanjay today is Sumit Sadana in the conversation. Sumit is currently the Executive Vice President, Chief Strategy Officer, and General Manager of the Enterprise Solutions at Sandesk. Sumit's career started with hardware and software engineering roles at IBM, followed by running operations and their strategy in IBM's technology group. When Motorola spun off its semiconductor division at Freescale Semiconductor, Sumit helped lead its transformation and ultimate sale to the private equity for over $17 billion, serving as the Chief Strategy Officer and CTO. Sandesk, in the enterprise space, where its enterprise revenues are now approaching $1 billion, Sumit has been the steer of that. He led the company's sale to Western Digital for $19 billion and has accomplished over $40 billion worth of M&A transactions in his career. Sumit earned his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from IIT Kharagpur, which I know many of you are from, and a master's degree in electrical engineering from Stanford University. Sumit is a member of the board of directors of Silicon Labs and a member of the board of directors of the Second Harvest Food Bank of Silicon Valley. Please join me in welcoming Sanjay and Sumit.
Storage. When it's SanDisk, it's more than a place to store data. It's a means to more efficient decision-making and data crunching. It's a way to maximize performance of virtualized environments. It's what brings efficiency up and cost of ownership down. That's why leading enterprises and hyperscale data centers rely on SanDisk. That's why manufacturers partner with us to create some of the world's thinnest yet most powerful devices. That's why consumers trust us with their most valuable memories. With more than 5,000 patents and over 25 years of research, development, engineering, and manufacturing, SanDisk is expanding the possibilities of storage and helping businesses take on their most critical challenges.
Thank you. Good morning. SanDisk has been associated with innovative products that have been disrupting many businesses over the years. The imaging cards put the film photography business out of business. Diskette drives were made obsolete by USB drives. And SSDs are now replacing hard drives in laptops at an ever-increasing pace. We wanted to share with you the next exciting innovation that SanDisk is bringing to the world of storage technology. Can we roll the video, please? Thank you. So Sanjay, it's really amazing that when a lot of the people in the audience found out I was going to be interviewing you, the one interesting comment I kept getting over the last few days was, Sanjay is such a nice guy. You have to ask him some tough questions.
Okay.
So I hope you'll be okay if I
Absolutely. Go
take
ahead,
some
Sumit.
liberties.
Have at it.
Oh, that's good, because I would have to do that even if you were not okay.
Okay.
So Sanjay, first I should start by trying to help the audience understand, you as a person. I think as a CEO, you take a lot of risks in the company. What are some crazy things you have done in your personal life? Have you, for example, jumped out of a plane?
Actually, I have. When my younger daughter turned 18, and she's somewhere in the crowd here, she wanted to celebrate by her 18th birthday by jumping, skydiving from 18,000 feet. And we all joined her. It was really quite an achievement. It was good fun for all of us. So yes, Sumit, I have jumped out of a plane. Yes.
So I've heard, this is before my time at Sandesh, but I've heard that you also participated in an exhibition match of sumo wrestling. And I'll take a moment to let that image sink in, but maybe not a good idea. But I heard that it was a sort of a painful experience for you, not because of the choice of wardrobe, but for some other reasons. Can you tell us what happened there?
So thanks for reminding me of that pain right in the beginning of this session here. So it was actually a charity event. Ali Harari, our lead founder, and I, in 2008 timeframe, were raising money for a charitable event, and we did so by doing sumo wrestling with each other. So for that sumo wrestling, you have to put on those heavy suits. As we put on the suit, and you have to lie down, and as I was getting up after putting on the suit, lying down, I had a twist in my knee, and actually I tore my meniscus, believe it or not. So we went at 3 rounds of sumo wrestling with my knee in extreme, excruciating pain. Ellie won the first round. He was just jumping on me like crazy, and I was trying to protect my knee while he was pounding on me. But he actually ran out of breath in that first round, exhausted himself. In the next 2 rounds, I won. So I did win it, but it was very painful for me. And I was limping for about a year afterwards.
Oh my goodness, that sounds painful. So Sanjay, let's start at the beginning. Tell us about your journey to the US and some of your background in India.
So I grew up in Kanpur, India, and I was raised there until I was about 10 years old. My parents then moved to Delhi. I went to schools in Delhi. My parents were always very, very particular about education and making sure we get the best education there. I went to some of what I believe were the top schools in Delhi, first to Salvan Public School and then to Sardar Patel Vidyalaya in Delhi. And then after higher secondary, my dad had the dream that he wants to send me to the US for higher education. He really did not have the financial means for it, but he had the big dream that somehow he'll get me here. We applied to come to the US after higher secondary. They said, you have done 11 years of schooling, you need to do 12 years. So I went to Pilani. I had admissions at IIT, but my dad believed that Pilani had, at that time, Ford Foundation and MIT collaboration, so he thought it will be easier for me to come to the US school if I went to Pilani. After first year, I applied again from Pilani, and I didn't get, got admissions, but basically they were saying that you have to come in as a freshman, and I had already done 1 year. I said no. Applied again after second year, and I got full credit for the 2 years. Go to US Embassy to get the visa, and I did not get the visa from US Embassy to come to the US. Believe it or not, my visa got turned down 3 times. And the third time, my dad was there with me as well. Actually, he was there first 2 times. And he just got mad that why is my visa being denied? So he said he wants to talk to the counselor. They said, you are nothing. Why would you talk to the counselor? Long story short, my dad said, we'll wait in the lobby area. He had gone to lunch, the counselor. We'll wait for him to come back because there was a picture of him in the lobby displayed, so we knew what he looked like. Sure enough, as luck would have it, he walks back in through the lobby. My dad gets hold of him and walks with him all the way to the office. And for the next 20 minutes, somehow the counselor allowed my dad to get into his office, and for next 20 minutes, my dad blasted him. He said, how can it be that this kid who has been given admission at UC Berkeley, you're depriving him of his future, and you have turned down his visa 3 times? Counselor didn't say a word for those 20 minutes. At the end, he asked for my passport, goes back, gets the visa stamped. So, that's really an amazing, amazing story. And I was like a little kid, totally quiet, watching my dad. That is a performance of my lifetime that I would never, ever forget. And, it really, really taught me that tenacity is key. If you want to achieve success, you must absolutely start with tenacity. And it also always humbles me that luck has a lot to do with whatever achievements we all may have. And I was very lucky that day that I was able to get the visa. If I didn't, I do not know where I would be. I probably won't be here in front of you.
And we don't know what would have happened with the Flash business either. So Sanjay, you came here and you attended UC Berkeley, and I went to Stanford, and I think in the Bay Area, everyone knows of the rivalry of these 2 great schools. And you have 2 lovely daughters who also went to Stanford. So are you ready to admit that Stanford is the better school?
Absolutely not. Okay? Absolutely not. Berkeley is the school to go to. Absolutely. I actually tried to convince my daughters to go to Berkeley too, but you know that I listen to my dad, but kids don't listen to.
So Sanjay, tell us about how the idea of SanDisk got started, and how did the 3 co-founders get together, and what was the chemistry like between them?
So after my schooling at Berkeley, I joined Intel Corporation, and that's where I met with Eli Harari, one of the lead founders of SanDisk. And I didn't work for him, but he was a manager. I was a new college graduate. And at that time, non-volatile memories were going from EEPROM to E²PROM. And soon afterward, in the labs, there was a concept of flash discovered, and there was some product development, technology development work going on with flash. Eli and I had tremendous experience by that time in non-volatile memory, and we were interested in flash. And when SanDisk started, our concept was that flash gives you low cost, and we will actually make solid-state drives using flash, because flash, like hard disks, did not have moving parts, right? It was semiconductor chip. It also was very small compared to hard disk drive. So we knew that you'll have the benefits of small, you'll have the benefits of low power, nothing mechanical, ruggedness, all of these things. But flash had one limitation, and that was really about endurance, how many times you can write data to it. Hard disk drives didn't have that limitation. You could write to them infinitely. So our innovation, the 3 of us, really was that we will start with flash architected for, believe it or not, 27 years ago, our first idea was that we'll start with flash architected for solid-state drives. And we also, Eli had the vision that flash also would be used in many removable, portable kind of devices that one would carry with themselves in the future. And again, all of this 27 years ago, before all this mobility revolution really started. So we 3 had expertise in flash. We had complementary strengths. Eli was a device physicist. And by the way, Eli, an immigrant from Israel. The second founder was Jack Yuan, immigrant from China. He had expertise in process technology, and my background was in chip design. 3 immigrants with 3 different backgrounds, complementary strengths. Eli always taking the lead in terms of interfacing with the outside, in terms of interfacing with the investors and VCs to raise the funds. And the 3 of us were always in communication. Due to our complementary strengths, we had tremendous respect for each other, trust in each other. We kind of divided up our work and always communicated well. The chemistry was awesome. And our vision at the time was that we leverage our expertise in flash to build solid-state drives and other portable flash solutions.
That's great. 3 immigrants coming together to do that. That's awesome. Now, every startup has its own unique culture, and some of the values that get determined in those early days, have subsisted through all these years at SanDisk. So what can you tell us about the uniqueness of SanDisk from those early years that SanDisk continues to leverage today?
So SanDisk, from day one, it was all about innovation, right? I mean, innovation has absolutely been key for SanDisk because, as I mentioned earlier, we started with the flash technology that was just in the labs at that time. And over the years, that flash industry has now grown to $35 billion industry, and SanDisk has played an important role in helping create that industry. We started with that concept of data flash, very different from anybody else that was pursuing it. Right from the top, we started with innovation. All of us were inventing. Ali has over 200 patents. Jack Yuan had several patents. All of us very much focused on innovation, Sumit, right from the start. That was one key element there.
So every company wants to have innovation, obviously. What did all of you do differently that enabled innovation to become part of the company DNA, even when it kept growing and becoming bigger?
So all three of us were technologists. And our flash memory technology was dear to us. We were passionate about it, had strong conviction in it, and we were always pushing the boundaries of technology. We were doing things that really nobody had talked about doing, and that's what was keeping us so excited all along. And we were encouraging our teams, motivating our teams as well, to absolutely push the boundaries of innovation, boundaries of technology, and in the process, certainly take risks. We started SanDisk. The start of SanDisk itself, on part of the three of us, was a huge risk. But even then, after that, continuing the technology and the product development and market development, we were always taking multiple risks. We encouraged the team to take risks, but don't be reckless. Take calculated risks. Whether you are doing chip technology development or in terms of engaging with customers and driving a new solution in the market, calculated risk was the key, and that has been a very important aspect of the SanDisk culture that really is there even today.
So another aspect that people talk about is this huge focus on execution that you specifically brought to the table throughout your time here at SanDisk. Talk to us about some of that execution focus.
Very right. We say that one of our core values at SanDisk is execute and exceed. And this has been a SanDisk hallmark from day one. Tremendous focus on execution. We always said that focus on few things, but do them well. Actually, used to say that if you're going to do two things well, do one thing twice as well. And all throughout the years of SanDisk history, we have just been all about flash. Many times, others would say that why don't you get into other semiconductor manufacturing? Why don't you get into DRAM manufacturing? But we really stayed focused on flash. And look, I mean, there was enough opportunity there for us to grow it from nothing to a $35 billion industry. And that, I think that focus, and this would always be my advice to any entrepreneur, that maintain your focus. That is absolutely key. And focus then ultimately translates into execution as well.
So the three of you got together. You guys had a great idea. You had some view on what kind of development work you wanted to do. You were pushing your engineering teams. Tell us about how SanDisk got its funding. And I understand there is a certain irony about the role of some hard disk drive companies in your early days of funding SanDisk.
So first round of funding, Series A, was $8.5 million for SanDisk. And $2 million came from Dylan Reed, a venture capitalist at the time, and another $2 million from Oak Ventures, another venture capitalist at the time. And the remaining $4.5 million came from corporate partners, $2 million from AT&T, because they were interested in a unique flash technology that we were pioneering at the time, and we wanted to manufacture it in AT&T Allentown labs. And the other $2 million came from Western Digital. So believe it or not, you just heard earlier that Western Digital is acquiring SanDisk for $19 billion. But Western Digital was actually a participant in SanDisk with a $2 million investment. and they probably had about 10% of the company at that time with that $2 million investment. Western Digital saw the promise of solid-state drives, which SanDisk had the vision of with its startup at the time. So we started with them too, developing solutions, defining solid-state drive and flash architectures. But they soon realized that it was not the right time for solid-state drives. And we realized it too. Solid-state drives are becoming big now, but 27 years ago, it was definitely too early. So then about 18 months later, Western Digital backed out of the partnership. And I do not know when they sold their $2 million worth of investment early on in SanDisk. But it's also interesting that in 1993 timeframe, we had investment from Seagate. The first products of SanDisk were, yes, indeed, these solid-state drives that were going toward pen-based tablet computing at the time. IBM and Grid were our big customers. And initially, those devices were successful in the market, but within a year, those devices manufactured by IBM and Grid turned out to be a flop in the market because it was too early for pen-based tablet computing. Those devices were too heavy. They were intended to be going into factory automation, data logging on production floors, et cetera, and people were finding it too clumsy, too clunky to carry around. So here, SanDisk revenue from 1991 of $3 million grew to $20 million in 1992, and we were thinking we are going IPO in 1993, growing the revenue even faster. But lo and behold, 1993, these early adopters, these customers went away, and SanDisk was found without customer base, although with the wonderful technology, and our revenue declined in 1993. Instead of doing an IPO, we were faced with real challenges and actually faced with not having enough money to soon be paying our payroll.
So did the VCs step up at that time?
Actually, the VCs said, you are on your own. They were all on our board, but they were not prepared to put any more money into SanDisk at that time. So it was definitely a challenging period. And that's when Ellie got in partnership with Al Shugart, who was interested in investing in the company on a personal basis, but the board said that they would rather have Seagate investment than personal money from Al. And Seagate in 1993 invested $30 million and took a 25% stake in the company at that time. And that really was a lifesaver for the company. And in return for that, they were also to sell our products. It turned out that Seagate salesmen, Flash was too small for them to have an incentive to sell Flash. They were focused on bigger deals. Even if they were given big incentives to sell Flash, they were not motivated enough. A year later, we went to Seagate. We said, this is not working. We need to have sales back under our control. Al was nice enough to give it back to us. And then we started taking off. 1995, we went public. Seagate at that time put in another, if I remember correctly, $10 to $15 million to maintain their 25% stake in the company. And later, Seagate sold that 40 to 50 million of their investment for, I believe, about $500 million later in year 2000 timeframe. And they sold the stock into 60s and 70s at that time.
So this is fascinating. The hard drive companies, basically Western Digital and Seagate, the two biggest ones today, put SanDisk into business. And you are repaying them by ripping out hard drives from other products.
That's right. And if you look at the market valuation of SanDisk today and look at the market cap of Seagate and Western Digital, SanDisk market cap today is larger than Seagate and Western Digital market cap combined. So there is no question that Flash is absolutely displacing hard disk drives fast.
So Sanjay, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience who work with VCs and negotiate valuations and investments from them. Any quick advice for them on what to keep in mind when they're doing that?
So one thing, Ellie always told me, and I totally agree with him on this, based on our experience, that the VCs that you want to invest in you really, really need to make sure that they believe in you as a person, not just your idea. they need to really, truly believe in you, and they need to stick with you. Because when you're going to start a company, start a business, you know that there will be ups and downs. Things will not work out in your favor the way you thought they're supposed to. And at that time, you need VCs that don't panic, that truly believe in you, and they are there with you to support you. So I think that definitely would be one big advice I would have for young entrepreneurs, that don't just run for any money. Get the money that you believe really is truly, truly believing in you as a person, and then you can have a long partnership. I want to point out that Erwin Federman, who was actually a new partner at Dillon Reed at the time, gave Sandesh, through Dillon Reed, the seed money of $250,000 to start. And he really believed in the company. He believed really in Ali at the time. He believed in Ali because Ali had started wafer scale integration earlier, and it was a dismal failure. And he thought that is wonderful that he has a person who has experienced such brutal failure. He wanted to bet on Ali, and he believed in Ali at that time. And Erwin Federman is still on the board of Sandesh today. And he has gone through many ups and downs, and he has been an awesome board member. That's the kind of VC you want to support you from day one. And other thing I'll tell young rising entrepreneurs is that VCs many times aren't right. They may think they know everything and they control the money and you're in awe with them, but many, many times they are not right. When we went to them to raise money, and this was Sequoia, Sequoia, premier VC firm. We went, proposed our idea of what was going to be a unique flash technology, very different from what Intel had at that time. And we said, we will do our technology, our architecture for flash. We'll have our semiconductor technology, very different. And Sequoia said that we will invest in you, provided you use Intel technology. And we said no. And I'm so glad that we said no, because what the vision we had then absolutely turned out to be the right thing to do, because that's what everybody is doing today. Everything that you use in flash today actually is that concept of data flash that Sandesh pioneered at that time. So Sequoia, premier VC, absolutely had the wrong idea at that time, trying to encourage us to use Intel kind of flash rather than go our own way with our own uniqueness.
That's very good. So now, the story that you told about SanDisk's evolution, ultimately the market grew, the applications for flash grew, you scaled the company up to almost 9,000 people today from that time, and SanDisk is now shipping 2 million products a day around the world. And you go to a corner of Africa, you find Coke and you find SanDisk products, and only one of them makes you fat if you consume them. So that's really great. Now, tell us, how did you actually transition from that startup entrepreneur to a CEO with all of the scaling of the company? And what lessons and insights can you share with us for people who are doing the same in the audience?
So I'll be very honest with you that as an engineer designing the chips early on in the SanDisk career, I was extremely, and I still am, detail-oriented. When you are designing chips, you have to pay so much attention, especially in those days when the tools were not totally as advanced. You have to pay so much attention to details to make sure that the chip that's going to get processed in the manufacturing facility for many weeks, that when it comes out, it works. Because if it doesn't work, you are delaying your plans by at least 6 months. So I had tremendous tendency for detail orientation, as well as that led to some level of micromanagement, which worked fine in certainly early startup stages. I think micromanagement absolutely has a place in a startup mode. But as the company was scaling up, that definitely was not the right thing to do. And I started realizing that, listening from people working for me and in my teams. And that's, Sumit, one of the most major transitions that I had to go through. And also realization that as the business scales, you may try to micromanagement, you may try to keep up with all the details, but you really cannot. You have to give that up. So how do you transition, from that early entrepreneur, micromanaging everything, knowing every detail, to running a multi-billion-dollar corporation or running a business that's starting to approach $1 billion? I really had to focus on, first of all, getting the right team, the right leadership team, and then learning to trust them. And I still have a tendency, absolutely, to trust but verify. You trust them, but every now and then you check. And this was a transition that I had to make. And in the process, it was about listening to others, as well as, frankly, learning from others. Because I went at Sandesh from an engineer to a businessman to a business leader. I learned things on the job. And I absolutely believe that you can learn things on the job. You just have to be open to learning from others. And if you hire good people, you have tremendous opportunity to learn from the very best. And one of the very best I've hired here is you. And I've learned a lot from you as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjay. Appreciate that. Now, I need to ask you something that a lot of people in the audience and others have asked me over time, especially since this acquisition got announced, right? I mean, SanDisk had been doing so well, growing rapidly, disrupting one market after another, and now the PC market is starting to move to SSDs. A third of PCs are already converted to SSDs. 100% will be SSDs in a few years. Enterprise growth in SSDs is very, very high. And people wake up one morning and all of a sudden there is a headline that WD, a hard drive company, has bought SanDisk. Help us understand why this is not a twilight zone here. Why does this make sense?
It really makes sense, first of all, from fiduciary responsibility. Keep in mind that when Western Digital approached us, at that time, SanDisk stock was trading in 40s. And Western Digital offer at the time was $86.50, a $19 billion offer, which at that time translated into a 70% premium, the highest premium for a company for a deal over $10 billion. So from a fiduciary responsibility point of view, there was no question that this was really a right decision to sell the company, to agree to sell the company to Western Digital, because it absolutely provided tremendous value to the shareholders. And we must remember that when we are a public company, shareholders are the stakeholders of the company, and you're absolutely committed to delivering value to the stakeholders. So this was fiduciary responsibility to absolutely agree to that. And there is no question that there is some emotion tied to it. When you have really grown the company over 27 years, it's like your baby. But at the same time, you have to realize that, yes, babies are born, they grow, they mature, and they move on. And this was the right marriage for the company with Western Digital, because not only was it right for shareholders, it also for customers, it really created a very compelling value proposition. The broadest portfolio of solutions for storage and totally media agnostic, whether it is rotating media, hard disk drive-based solutions, or it is flash-based solutions. And I have talked to many customers since we announced the acquisition, and I have to share with you that customers are excited about this acquisition. Customer base is really getting concentrated, customers are becoming large, and they absolutely want to see that supplier base, and it's in the interest of supplier base as well, that supplier base gains bigger muscle, more momentum, and SanDisk Western Digital combination absolutely enables us positions as well in front of these very large global customers. And certainly for employees, which is very important out of all of this as well, because employees, no question, are like your family. For employees, this is an opportunity too in a bigger company, and I really, really believe that SanDisk employees are damn good. Flash is the future of Western Digital, no question about it, and I think SanDisk employees will also have a bright future at Western Digital. So when you look at all of this combined, really this was the right thing to do, right strategic move for the company to accept the Western Digital offer.
Very good, Sanjay, and we are out of time, so I'll ask you just one last question. You've had such a rich experience in this company, going through that journey that you described, from the startup to the scaling up, disrupting so many markets, going through all the ups and downs of the markets. Tell us about your most humbling experience over this time, and then tell us about your most exhilarating one?
Most humbling experience, I would say, was in 2008, 2009 timeframe for the company. That was the global macroeconomic downturn. Sandisk at that time was used to be just based on removable products. We had grown the business to over $3 billion, selling USBs, flash cards. And in 2005, when we had first hit our $2 billion in revenue, we had set a target internally, a slogan internally that used to say, 10, 10, 10. We had said that $10 billion in revenue with $10 in EPS in year 2010. And now it was 2008, 2009 timeframe, and we appeared to be far from that. We were still at about $3 billion in revenue. And the downturn at that time, Sandisk in 2008 timeframe in financial reporting had a loss of about $1 billion. And that really was a humbling experience, that from the go-go times of 2005, proclaiming to get toward 10, 10, 10, and not really having sufficient backup on how to get there, and then be faced with such challenging times and hefty losses. It was very humbling for us. But I must say that also the team at that time really rallied together, and we emerged much stronger from that downturn. We said we need to diversify our business. Rather than just removable products, we need to get into embedded products. And sure enough, in 2010, Sandisk had revenues of over $4 billion. 2013, we had revenues of over $6 billion. And now we are a company with revenues of approximately $6 billion. So that 2008, 2009 timeframe was the most humbling time for the company, very trying times. By the way, at that time, Samsung tried to approach us and buy us for about $6 billion. And we had to fight that off at that time. And that was absolutely the right thing at that time. Look at Western Digital. In October, it was a $19 billion offer. Most exhilarating, Sumit, was in October, acquisition by Western Digital, and the realization that a company that we built from scratch had built enough value and had really changed the world, taking it from scratch to a $19 billion acquisition for the entire team, and what that team at Sandisk over the years, starting with Ali Harari, our lead founder, and an amazing team of employees over the years, and a tremendous management team at Sandisk, what it had achieved in terms of taking it from nothing 27 years ago to a $19 billion acquisition. I have to say that personally felt really exhilarating for me.
So Sanjay, that's a terrific story, and thank you for sharing all those details with us. I have to say that I have worked in several companies over my career, and Sandisk is definitely the highlight of my career, and working with leaders yourself has certainly been my privilege. Good luck with the next steps of your journey, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.